Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. And I thought that I would be among a very small endangered species called man in this woman, but I realize it's more or less 50-50 here. And I'm grateful that you chose to come here on a Sunday morning, and I know what a Sunday morning means to women and men. And I would like to thank Mr. Ajayan, Mr. Balan, Mr. Anand Mani, and Captain Haridas for instrumental in organizing, negotiating with IIM, and making this happen. And my deep gratitude to the women entrepreneurs and those who want to come here and congregate and learn from each other and apply their learning in whatever they choose to do. The unfortunate part is that learning precedes earning. And if there is no learning, earning gets stopped at a certain point. You have to understand that that is why an institution such as ours are at the forefront of creating the entrepreneurial magic that not just Kozhikode but entire Kerala is capable of. We are sitting on a huge, untapped possibility. And we want to do this. You know, I wonder if some of you came through the other main entrance and you would have seen a statue of Arjuna there. You've seen the Arjuna statue? And you know who Arjuna is? I mean, obviously, I don't need to introduce Arjuna to you. But you know, some of you who do not know about Arjuna would realize that one of the lovers and wife of Arjuna, her name is Chitrangada, and they were having a conversation. And Chitrangada is asking Arjuna that, you know, Arjuna, if you really want to know the heart of a woman, we'll talk about women first and then we'll go into entrepreneurship briefly. And if there are some questions you have, I'll be happy to take them. If you really want to know the heart of a woman, you should not convert her into either a goddess, put her on a pedestal, or even demonize her, put her down there. You should not walk ahead of a woman, nor should you walk behind her. It is not necessary anymore in 21st century. You have to walk side by side with a woman if you want to know the heart of a woman. Because this is 50%. I mean, what is so special about women being in an entrepreneurial role? The child is fine, don't worry. You can be here, you don't have to go out. We can live with the kid, not a problem. So is it possible that when IIM Kozhikode decided as a community that we'll have 54% women on our campus, it looked like a statistical impossibility given the track record of the IIM, where so far, until 2012, the number of women who came to the IIM system was roughly 8 to 10% over a 50 years period. And so you could imagine that because for 50 years, nobody even noticed that not really the IIM system does not represent the demographic, the gender divide of our country, where roughly it is 50-50, roughly. So why should it be 8 to 10%? And we changed all of that in 2012 by just looking at one lens, which is performance of girl students in class 10 and 12. And we realized that they outperformed boys many times over because until then the field was more or less even. After that, the boys started receiving more money for going to coaching centers and girls would get less of parental income, and so the field was skewed. And we said we have to restore that by bringing into account how girls perform in these two exams, and that was the basis of our new lens of selection, and we were not wrong. We realized that, you know, the national average, that year for summer placements, women got the better jobs, 60% of the jobs went to the girls and 40% to the boys. So we realized that statistically speaking, it is not just equality of opportunity, but equality itself. That was the challenge. And so we changed. IIM Kozhikode created a new benchmark for the whole country to change. Now today, the national average of intake of women in IIM is about 26%, which is more than twice of what it was before we introduced. You know, you can see we changed the whole field from here. and nationally, not just in this state or in this country or on this city. So the question is, what has this done to our classrooms? It has made the classroom much more diverse. Ideas generated are much more diverse. The learning has become more diverse. It comes from multiple sources. But more importantly, boys have started behaving better in the class because there are girls there. They are better dressed. And this is an unintended consequence of our reservation. You don't call it a reservation, we call it as affirmative action. So UNARUKA means waking up. What are you waking up to? Waking up to your essence. Fundamentally, this is something that you have to look at. The core issue of lack of entrepreneurial capability is very deeply rooted in the identity of a woman. What we get identified with in our growing up time becomes the basis of whether we will succeed or we will not succeed. It goes as deep as that. If you try and figure out what is indeed the heart of a woman, you realize that the core of who you are sitting here as a woman, the core of you is awareness. And that awareness is no gender, it is no religion, it is no caste. You are established in pure awareness, uncontaminated by any other conditioning from the society or from the nature. You are born as awareness, you are just aware. And later on you become aware of gender, this and that. Being aware of this and that and the third thing is a second nature of evolution. But the primary nature is that you are just awareness. Now what happens to this awareness is as follows. Like I said, the body has gender. The mind has been conditioned by the gender. But awareness is free of that. And if this awareness is locked in your experience of the past, if this awareness is conditioned by what you can do, what you cannot do, what you are told, and it creates your identity. Identity is a two-way street. Identity is what you think of yourself and what others think of you, and you have internalized that, what others think of you. So two things create that conditioning of who you are. Like I said, if this awareness is who you are, what has happened to this awareness, minus the conditioning, what has happened is, awareness is this whole and indivisible life. You are life itself. The male is given the seed of awareness and the woman the power to make the seed into a flower. This flowering is about being human. Dear woman, you are not inadequate. You are not adequate at all. You are exceptional. For you are the reason why the world can yet hope to be fully human. This is the heart of a woman. This is not poetry written by Ghalib or somebody else. It is my own coining, right? So is it possible? I could easily have said Shakespeare or, Harbans Rai Bachchan, and it would have passed off. But the fact is that if you have to go back to the very core awareness of that intelligence that you are, then much of the conditioning around what you can do, what you cannot do, what you should be doing gets, entrepreneurship starts at that point when you have pure potential. And that purity of potential is very, very critical, more so if you're a woman in this country. It has not been, every state is not Kerala, okay, and, and you have to understand that every society is not equal opportunity society. I'm just wondering what will happen to a government job if somebody at the other end of the table was interviewing a person who was a woman, and one of my colleagues has a very potent way of saying who was a woman who comes through a certain underprivileged section of the society, who did not speak much English but was otherwise very intelligent, who had a certain skin color which is not exactly fair. Is there a chance of this person getting a job? Much less than the national average. So we still project our own conditioning, our own biases, and women themselves are prisoners of this kind of identity, which is conditioned. And this is something that you have to understand. There was a lighting of the lamp. A woman was not lighting the lamp. This is not by design. This is a default mode of working. And you can see that. Why does it happen? So if I look at the entrepreneurial thing from the women's perspective, now these are the following things that come to my mind. I realize that entrepreneurship is about the market. One thing that you have to understand that the market can never go wrong because market is like a machine, it's a mechanism. The market can't go wrong. What can go wrong is our understanding of it. You know, this is not my expression, this is the expression of one of the greatest wealth creators of India, whose name is Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. He creates wealth through investment. He says, you know, I have never felt that the market can never be wrong. Market is like a machine. It will sort out the efficient from the inefficient. Market does not have a thinking brain. It is not conditioned by other factors other than just efficiency or inefficiency. So don't blame the market when you're starting on the entrepreneurship venture, whether there is a market for this or market is a mechanism. You first have to introduce, you have to see there are problems inherent in our society, in our organizations. And you have to solve the problem. So first is problem solving. First act on, if there's a problem out there, and I have to solve this problem. Okay? Now, what the problem is a matter of diagnostic. You can be taught to figure out what the problem is. You can do management by objectives. You can diagnose, you can use any technique that one can give you here, and you can figure out what the problem is. But how should the solution be executed differs from time to time, and therefore there is no formula how you can execute a solution to the problem. There can be many ways of executing the solution, and the one that the market accepts. The problem today is in my city is that I want some buttermilk, and I don't have the time to make it. So I see in the vegetable vendors are now selling buttermilk for 50 rupees a bottle, and I find it very convenient. And so there is a solution that somebody has found out to my inability to make that buttermilk, although I would like to consume it. I don't have the time to make it. So if you give it to me for 50 bucks, you have to understand whether I'm willing to spend 50 rupees. What kind of trade-off I want to do. If I'm not willing to do it, I will not pick up your bottle. But if I have that kind of a disposable income, so somebody who's trying this business out, and I'm seeing these bottles in the market as I go shopping. You know, I buy my own vegetables and my fish, by the way. I see this, I said, will this price performance point really work? You know, entrepreneurship is about two things. One is SMEs, you know, you run a small enterprise. Most of you are doing that. And the other is innovation-led, which is when you want to go global. These are two different dimensions, but let's look at the market first. So what is the market saying to us? The market is saying, well, you can put out a product, you can put out a solution, whether your solution works or not. Let the market decide. You have no way to undermine the market. Whether I will pay 50 rupees or not is not a function of what your product is, but a function of what I see is as the equation between price and performance. I'm willing to pay you a price of 50 rupees for a performance of this kind. If the performance is better than what I expected, I will go for your product. Are you with me? And so you have to see the adjustment that you make between what you have to offer as a solution and what the market accepts or rejects. It's a very dynamic process, and the market is going to tell you, give you signals. If you can't see those signals, if you can't read those signals, then you're in trouble. Then you can't blame the market, or there is no market here for such a thing. You know, there's a friend of mine who's here. I met her in CI in Taj recently, and she is starting out in Kozhikode with a shop which hopefully aggregates products for senior citizens. Now she's put this out, and if she sees that there are not enough footfalls, she has to adjust the product, the marketing, the putting out of it, in a matter that the market finds it favorable. And so it is not a question of going out there. You know, 1 out of every 9 ventures fail. So there is no recipe for entrepreneurship. Nobody has been able to tell us what is a success formula. That is why it's such a dicey proposition. But only 1 out of 9 really succeed, which simply means that it is a matter of trial and error. It's a matter of trial and error. And so do you have the patience, do you have the perseverance to do that trial and error? That's why entrepreneurship is a great game of macro patience. and micro speed. Macro patience means huge patience, and very quickly you are adjusting to customer preferences, Are you with me? Are you with me? And so look at what's happening in Japan. When you go to buy a bicycle, they are telling you, what kind of bicycle, sir, do you want? What color should it be? What should the mudguard look like? What should the bell look like? And there's a conversation going on between you and the designer of your bicycle. And even as you are talking to him, he's doing this on the computer. By the time your conversation is over and you're out, you're trying to go out, the bicycle is ready, it's getting created. So it's manufactured just in time based on your real-time feedback. See, that's the dynamic conversation that you have to have with the market, because you don't understand this beast, this mechanism, unless you actually went near it and you felt it, you touched it, you smelt it. Am I clear? Am I communicating with you? Or is it the Sunday overnight, you very early morning? I wonder. You are not the ones who would have a hangover, I can see that. But the fact is, so how should the solution be executed is a cultural issue as well. You give washing machines in Punjab and they will use this to make lassis. That's a cultural issue. Now you can't blame them for using washing machines. Washing machine sales went up in Punjab all of a sudden. Okay. You use coconut oil in Bengal, nobody will buy your product. You use mustard oil in Kerala, nobody will buy your product. You see, fundamentally, it's also subjective. So what is the subjective pattern through which the customer is looking at your product? What is the cultural? So this is the fundamental thing. You can't have a bunch of Western theories on entrepreneurship and apply it in Kerala. It does not work. McDonald's don't work in the way it works in Delhi. You see, the point is that there is something called culture. There is something called entrenched habits, eating habits. And techniques don't apply. Therefore, entrepreneurship has no formula. It's a creative improvisation, something like jugaad. Something like jugaad. And is it possible that you have to understand this? So what happens is, solving a problem at a certain price performance point, and then you create a value. Value creation is just another critical part. So what does value creation really means? It means that I'm able to see what is of value to the customer, the consumer, not what I am giving. I think I am giving value, but the person may not feel the value. And so you have to be completely open-ended, open mind. I'll share with you a story, very interesting story, about why is it linked to identity. What are you identified it with becomes a problem. So there's a little girl who has drawn a picture, and she says, this is a picture of a cow eating grass. And the person looking at the picture says, see, I am looking at the picture, but this is blank page. Where is the cow? Where is grass? The kid says, look, the cow has eaten all the grass, so how can there be grass? And the person says, so, but where is the cow? At least the cow should be there. He said, if all the grass is eaten, why should the cow stay here? It will have gone. Now, you see, I'm telling you a story, you'll remember the story, but the story is a metaphor. The grass is your thoughts, and cows are your emotions. Now, these two together creates a mental model. But you can't have a mental model when you're dealing with a customer. You should be open-ended. You said, okay, let me know from you what you want, rather than tell you what I have. Figure out, your question to answer ratio will be multiple times. Let me figure out from you what you really want before I give you what I have to give you. So what you want is X, I am giving you Y. Would you buy it? No. Are you with me? So Dhirubhai Ambani says what average India wants is a phone call that will be cheaper than a postcard. So he brought down the call of tariff. You see, the question is this. So fundamentally what he figured out is what India wants. And what people really want, you have to engage with them. You have to constantly talk to them. And for that you have to create an identity that is not collapsed, by this and that. What I can provide, that is a later question. Whether I'm a woman, how can I run and sell this product, this place? And so the question I'm asking is it possible that you create real value by figuring out what the customer wants beyond what you have to offer. There's a guy who actually shining your shoes in Ahmedabad. His job is to polish your shoes. That's what he provides as a service. He does a damn good job. But in addition to polishing your shoes, he's carrying an English edition of Times of India. I'm not advertising for Times of India. Actually, he's carrying a copy of Times of India. And so after he polishes the shoe, ask him, why are you carrying a copy of the Times of India? Do you know how to read English? And your assumption is if he can read English, why is he polishing shoes? He should be doing something else. And he says, no, I don't read English at all. So why are you carrying a copy of the English version of Times of India? He says, the person whose shoe I am polishing for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, he gets very bored and he needs to do something while I'm doing the polishing. So I give him in Times of India and he reads and he's very happy that he's not bored. He said, look what he has done. He has gone beyond his own expertise, own experience of polishing shoes to give the little touch, 1 rupee 50 paisa worth of a newspaper, for which he gets repeat business because people know that they would be occupied. They can get the latest news, sports and all of that, and meanwhile they can have their shoes polished. So fundamentally what we're saying is value creation is not about what you think it can do. For instance, if you're sitting on chairs, each of you, if you watch each other, just turn around and see everybody's sitting differently from the other. Unique sitting arrangement. Chairs are the same, but your sitting on the chair is unique to you. The alignment of your backbone, how your neck is positioned, how your head is positioned. How you're sitting on the back seat, how you're transferring your weight, how often you're leaning forward, how often you're leaning back, how long you're going to sleep. Now suppose I put a little sensor on the back of the chair, sensor that can map your movement of the back and give me data on a computer. The sensor will record the data and tell me in 3 hours that you're sitting here, how were you behaving? How can I use that data, you tell me? Some of you are around. How can I use that data? Okay, you are shy, you will not speak up from there, but let me tell you how you can use it. First of all, if I'm a professor, I can tell you how attentive you are. If you are really interested in a subject, you will not be sitting like this. You will be up there, like this, edge of the chair. Can you do that now? Can you do that now? Yeah, I can figure it out. Without a sensor, I can make out. All right, and so you'll be up there. How else can I use the data? I can use the data to give it to an orthopedic surgeon and tell you what your bone, what your sitting posture can do damage to your backbone forever. So he can help you to correct your posture. I can give this data to the policeman when somebody has stolen my car and the seat has a sensor which tells me exactly my own signature on the car seat. And if somebody else is sitting there, immediately there will be an alarm that will go, somebody else is stealing your car. Of course, if your spouse is sitting there, the alarm will still go. You have to tell the police it's your husband or your wife. But the fact is, it is possible that you can help the police. You can help, this is an identification. You can leave your car without any problem. Because the moment somebody else sits there, there will be an alarm. Somewhere. Now, this data can be used in so many different ways. Are you with me? Now, how you're going to use it, what you will sell for a certain price will depend on what uses you can think of. It will also depend on who's willing to pay that kind of money for whatever you're using. Now, once you have figured this out, with an open mind, with a very open mind, there is no grass, no cow there. You can draw anything with an open mind, but if you've already drawn the grass and the cow, you can't do anything with that. So be as long as possible. People say you have to quickly find a solution. The quicker you find a solution, the more idiotic the solution is likely to be. See, this is Albert Einstein who said you must be with the problem. If it's a 60 minutes time, you must be with the problem for 59 minutes. And the 60th minute will be the best solution possible because you have thought through many angles. You've got other ideas from a lot of people. And so these are very critical. So essentially, the challenges that you will face going forward as a woman entrepreneur, I go to Amira Shah and she says the first challenge is, of course, equal opportunity, but before that, equality itself. And then you have what you call managing interference. You can see You have to deal with your social life as a woman, in addition to your professional life as an entrepreneur. And these two lives are very competitive. It's not easy to be a woman and an entrepreneur at the same time, because these run, and so the interferences that come in your professional space is something that you have to learn to manage. And most entrepreneurs who have done that are able to, go, because otherwise it's very tough, and we know that. The other challenge you face is how you network and what is the nature of your network. You see, essentially, you have to have allies, without which entrepreneurial work will not happen. One of those Japanese best-selling writers said, rich people don't work, they network. And fundamentally, what you call network is nothing but the very nature of who you know, how many people, how many different people you know. Sam Pitruda, who created a telecom revolution in India, said, if I go to a conference, and this is a telecom conference, I would avoid that conference as much as possible. I will go to a film conference rather than a telecom conference, because I am from the field. And they're going to say more or less the same thing over and over again. But if I go to another conference, which is not my field, I learn something about another field. And the nature of my network, the more diverse this network, the more value I will create. Because my market is going to grow bigger. It will not be for only a small segment, it will be for a larger segment. But I have to know what that segment is. The product I'm selling for senior citizens, can it be sold? The product I'm selling for senior citizens, can it be sold for children as well? Go to another segment. Are you with me? So if I want to get adults to a bookstore, can I create a section for children, so much so the children will drag their parents there? The first section will be children, so it will be in their eye line, so children will catch hold of their parents and bring him to the bookstore. And so the point is that, is it possible to vary your network? The more diverse your network, the more chances is your product or service of succeeding in a larger space. And so this is very important. The other challenge is to see, how do I acquire the ability to network? If you are going to be sitting in your space, comfortable space, it will not happen. Indira Nooyi, when she was made CEO of PepsiCo, and PepsiCo's net worth is more than GDP of 100 countries. You can imagine, sum total of GDP. She's made the chairperson of that. She was an IIM Calcutta graduate, by the way. That's what we take pride in. But the fact is, when Indira Nooyi went home in Chennai, after she became PepsiCo's CEO, she realized that nobody is congratulating her. They are congratulating her mother for bringing her up. He said, oh my God, why are they congratulating my mother? Because for bringing up such a bright kid. She said, this is an idea I want to implement in PepsiCo. She went to PepsiCo. First thing she did is invite the mothers of all her key leadership teams and congratulate them for having brought them. And it created a huge amount of connect between her and her people. So fundamentally, networking means your ability to see beyond the obvious, beyond the superficial. Are you with me? So if I congratulate your father, don't I also congratulate you in the process? And so the point is this, that you go behind the immediate contact, immediate connect, and go underneath. You see, behind every successful woman entrepreneur is a surprise mother-in-law. Go behind the network. Some of the primary fear entrepreneurs have, this is the fear number 2, fear of loss of money. But before that, loss of face in front of a mother-in-law. This is the primary fear. And I don't want. So go behind. Please switch off your phones. It's not a good practice to have your phones on. Please, for God's sake, switch off your phone. Put this on silent mode. Okay. Switching off is not easy, as you can see. Switching on is the easy part. So is it possible that the challenges you face will come with some emotions? One emotion is fear. How do you deal with fear? How do you deal with anxiety? What will people say if I fail? What will say? They say the fear is compounded as you process this in your mind. I'm very anxious. Now, these are emotions that don't help your cause as an entrepreneur. And fear of what? And you have to engage the fear. The more you come close to the fear, the more you realize the fear is all self-projected. So fundamentally, fear is thoughts and emotions in a certain way, patterned in a certain way. You have to embrace those fears, otherwise there's no growing. So it is possible that you are allowing your head to be rented out for somebody else's ideas. Somebody said, this is a good business for you, so stick to, 3 P's, papad, stick to papad, stick to powder, stick to the small things that pickles, 3 P's, and that is your domain. Now, if somebody has planted this in your head, please reject such ideas, because this is not what you are all about. And so fundamentally, if your head is a rented space where fear and anxiety grips you all the time, you want to venture out, you can't do much. And so you have to address those emotions primarily. It's not easy being an entrepreneur, but once you've started on that venture, you'll see what comes in the way is fundamentally that. Is it possible that you deal with those fears? So I'm going to give you, there is no formula for entrepreneurship, but I'll tell you before I take a few questions, the 2 very important issues for successful entrepreneurs. We have studied several of them. One is the ability to see a purpose beyond the goal. Most politicians are entrepreneurs, you have to understand that. And their job is to maximize votes. If there's a Sabrimala issue, there'll be multiple solutions. You can see entrepreneurial thinking at work already, because it's about maximizing votes, and there is nothing wrong or right about it. That's the way they are. So we had a whole Kerala cabinet come to this campus led by the chief minister, and he asked us this question: tell us how to win the next election. I said, I'm sorry, none of us fought elections like you have. So we can't tell you how to win the next election, but we can tell you how you will lose the next election. And that had them completely attentive. And so they said, how will you lose the next election? I said, if you don't win the next generation, you can't win the next election. And generation is 5 years. So what is the new generation thinking? What are they looking for? See, politicians constantly do this perception survey. They are constantly, most of them have eye problem because they're constantly watching television, particularly what their rivals are saying on television. They have to know because they have to say something different, okay, to capture eyeballs. So, this is true. This is research that we did. So fundamentally, you have to see what are you going to do is to maximize interest in the product that you have. So how to do that? By constantly observing, mapping, observing. And you have to do that, and you have to change the nature of your product, the profile of your product. And you can't do that unless you have a purpose bigger than your immediate goal. So if you have only a goal that I want to make some money quickly, then you can't be an entrepreneur. Then you should take up a job in the government of Kerala. Even after a PhD, you can take up a peon's job, okay, or a school teacher's job. Then you can't be an entrepreneur if you're looking for money or a regular, steady return on investment. That's not the way entrepreneurs think. Now, is it possible that you ever thought that fundamentally, unless you have a big picture about what you're doing, people who don't understand what the big picture is, look at a spider's web. It's an extraordinarily beautiful work of textile engineering. Now, spider does not have the nervous system sophisticated enough to create that web, but its web is a function of the spider's innate instinctive capability and its ecological sensitivity. So it is constantly talking to its ecology, not in verbal language, not in Malayalam or English, but it is talking the language of silence, and silence is nature's mother tongue. Okay? The spider is talking to its ecology and creating that beautiful web day after day, without a problem. Look at a beehive, hexagonal structure, walls inclined at a certain angle, the temperature kept constant at a certain temperature so that the wax does not melt. And beehive is a marvelous piece of civil engineering created by whom? By bees. Not instinctive, not sophisticated enough to be able to design a beehive, but bees together with their ecology create something magical. How do they do it? Because both bees and spiders live on purpose. They don't live for a goal or a plan. They live on purpose, and so their goals and plans are flexible enough to be consumed by this. So an individual bee says, the hive is bigger than me. I have to have a big picture. You will have a tea break immediately after because you'll be so saturated with what I've said. You need a real cup of tea. So, when you drink a cup of tea, you'll be surprised what you're drinking is not tea really. When your green leaves are touched by the sun rays, they become brown, and chai is photons of light. You're drinking light. And you're boiling this in water. And the heat that is generated allows the tea to kind of mix with the water. And you mix that concoction with a drop of fluid that a black cow eating green grass has produced. You call that milk. And you mix that with the sap of the earth that a pump called sugar cane, brand sugar cane, has produced those juices, and the crystals that are called sugar crystals. You mix this with tea, and your cup of chai is nothing but a cosmic conspiracy of air, water, and fire and earth. This is you in conjunction with your ecology has produced a cup of chai. People say fire was greatest discovery, but fire wasn't. Cooking was the greatest invention. Cooking is the most entrepreneurial thing human beings have done. Cooking. What has cooking done? Cooking has shortened the need for our digestive tract. Before we knew how to cook, we had to consume, we had to eat, hunt, and eat. And our digestive tract had to be very big to digest raw food. With cooking, the digestive tract got smaller and smaller, but the cerebral tract got bigger and bigger. So what you call chai pe charcha is a result of you learning how to cook. Entrepreneurship is cooking. How much salt you will put. So Kerala chai is different from Punjab chai, which is different from Bengal chai. Do you know? The proportion of milk, sugar, and chai is different in different states. So what we'll sell in Kerala is a matter of you understanding the culture, drinking habits of people. But fundamentally, chai itself is cooked from multiple sources. So you can see innovation is nothing but, entrepreneurship is nothing but bringing together a whole ecology. Bringing together a whole ecology into your product and your services. If you're not able to do that, you cannot be a successful entrepreneur. So this is purpose. Dhirubhai's purpose was phone call has to be cheaper than a postcard. Tata says, we also make steel. What else are they doing? Tata Steel says, we also make steel. What else are you doing? I mean, they actually, making steel is just the outer phase of what they actually make. They make people who make the steel. Okay, so when you go to Jamshedpur plant and you hear the story of J.R.D. Tata who is walking across this plant, and he says, what are these guys doing here shouting slogans? He says, sir, his HR head says, sir, they are absolutely upset because they want bonuses. We have already given them some bonus, but seeing you, they have become even more agitated. They know that if they agitate, they will give them. He said, I'm not worried about their shouting. I'm worried about how they are shouting. They are shouting under the hot sun. There's nothing to drink, no water. Give them a shade and give them some nimbu pani. Let them shout. Give them a comfortable place to shout. And after that, what happened? They stopped shouting. There were no strikes in that plant for the next 50 years. See, this is the most important part. How do you connect your product to a purpose bigger than the product? Then you will have the resilience, you will have the patience, you will have the wherewithal to bounce back, because 9 times out of 10, a product will fail. But the 10th time can make you so rich that your 20 generations will not need a job of a peon. Okay? So the fundamental thing is, it is not a Russian roulette. It is the ability to live for something bigger than yourself. So even if you fail, you will have enjoyed the journey. And this is the most important part of entrepreneurial life. Do I enjoy the process of creating something? Or if I'm just trying to make a quick buck and money, that's not entrepreneurship. That's shopkeeping, that's trading. Many people can do that. That doesn't require your extraordinariness. So last thing that I'm going to share with, I've spent a lot more time than I thought I should, but then I thought, I would give the best to this group on a Sunday. I would not give you the second best. The last thing I want to say is that, your ability to change your mental models. The first thing is those mental models get formed in the first 7 years of your life as a child. How you dressed, how you were treated in school differently from boys. That has created a model that needs to be challenged, because these mental models are actually the ones that are delivering whatever you are doing on an everyday basis. By default, they are your mindsets. And now if you do not know how to deal with that mindset, you are unlikely to go as an entrepreneur. So what is the mindset that you're talking about? We are talking about mantras that you have to inculcate. The word mantra, you know what the word mantra means. I recently inaugurated a book by one of the very well-known acharyas here, and the word was called mantra, secret of the mantra. I said, look, I don't understand this. I'm not a monk, so I don't use the word mantra in a religious sense, but I understand business, success, entrepreneurial ability are mantras. There are mantras. What is a mantra? If you look at, if you ask for what is the mantra for the best search engine for information search in the world, what would that be? Google, everybody is saying Google. So you're repeating the word Google. Everybody is repeating. See, imagine many more times. How many times people repeat the name Google in this world? Trillion times and more every week. So you can see the fact that this is success because everybody is talking about Google. You and I are actually subscribing even if you're not. So the fundamental thing is mantra is what you repeat consciously and repeat it so many times that it has become a reality. You know, the word mantra is the connection, is the bridge between potential and performance. It is a connection between silence and your words and your execution. What is the mantra then? It comes from an intention to do something. This is silent intention. Intention becomes thoughts, thoughts become words, words become habits, habits become values, values when repeated becomes success product. So what you call a successful product is consistency of values in an inconsistent world. That is what entrepreneurial success is all about. So if I ask you what is the best online store to buy a book, what would your answer be? Huh? Best online store to buy a book. Amazon, everybody says Amazon. So you're uttering that mantra between intention, thought, words, habits, actions, values, product. The gap is closed. And so mantra has yielded fruit. And mantra means that which you want to do. Is there a repeat value of that? Yes, it is. How will people make it simpler so that people can repeat it? They'll buy your product again. So it's become a mantra for them. That's what the word mantra means. So are you able to create that shorthand for people to recall what you have to produce? What is the best place to do an Ayurveda treatment in Kerala? One word. Everybody says Kottakkal. The whole country says Kottakkal. Why? What is it about? Kottakkal has become the shorthand for Ayurveda. You know, I used to ask J.J. Irani, who was CEO of Tata Steel, he says, when we were in Tata in Jamshedpur, there used to be a slogan among unemployed young people. They used to say, Juta hai to Bata ka, Naukri hai to Tata ka. You know, it has become a shorthand for success. So are you able to bridge the gap between potential and performance, between silence and words? The word mantra comes through following stages. It starts with what is called Vaikhari. Vaikhari is the spoken word. Then it goes to Madhyama. Madhyama is intermediary between the spoken and the thought. And then it comes to Pashyanti. Pashyanti is something that is thought. And then it goes to Para. Para is something that's beyond thought, which is silence, which is intention. So you can see mantra travels the whole gamut. I'm using classical language of the rishis, okay? So it's a whole gamut from words to silence, from where words come. And so if you can cover the whole territory, uncover the silent intention of the customer and give it a word, give it a shape. A product is a word, okay? If you can uncover that, if you know the secret of the mantra, that will be repeated many times over, then you got it. You understood what a brand is all about, okay? I'm going to end with two stories. One from my interview with the first woman who became State Bank of India chairperson. It's one of the biggest roles in India today in banking. I was in the interview board along with 4 other people. 4 people came for the interview, of which, and all the 3 that got interviewed were men, and they were talking about how good they were as bankers. So you're looking for a bank CEO's job, obviously you have to be a good banker. But there was one person who was not talking about banking as much. And she was asked this question, if you're not a banker, what would you rather be? She said, I would rather be a person, I'm not a very good banker, I would rather be a person who would study museums, she told us. And you know, everybody started getting interested in her. And she talked about museum studies. Obviously, it was understood that she would be a good banker, but she didn't have much to say about it herself. She let others do the talking, right? But when she talked, it was from a place of passion. And so the mantra was that I am really good enough. But whether or not I am good enough, you have to decide for this role. But I am good enough, I know. For this role, you know better. But all I am telling you, I am good enough. And so her conversation was very easy. It was not difficult. And one understood that she was not desperate for the job. And therefore, she got it. She got the job because she was not desperate for it. So the interview committee concurred that we'll have the first woman as the State Bank of India chair. That was one. The second story is with on my first term here, I did on 2nd of October, I did a little on Gandhi Jayanti, on Gandhi and leadership. And I called several CEOs and the minister at that point in time of corporate affairs, Salman Khurshid, and the CEOs came. Among the CEOs, we invited PT Usha. And the session was about moments of truth. And we asked everybody, what is your moment of truth? When PT Usha's turn came, she said, it was not a moment of truth, it was a fraction of a moment of truth. What was the fraction of a moment of truth? She said, it was the fraction by which I lost the Olympic medal. Whole of India was watching me. And I had to deliver. And she could not. Now this is a failure, right? From the point of view of a job description, it's a failure. But from an entrepreneurial point of view, it is not a failure. Because PT Usha said, until PT Usha's school sends out an Olympic medalist, my mission, PT Usha mission is not over. So PT Usha has become a mission. It's a movement. It is not about making money or success or failure. It is about the next Olympic medal. It is not even about PT Usha. Do you see this? It's a blank canvas. Whosoever comes and gets the next Olympic medal becomes PT Usha for us. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your presence this evening, this morning. And hopefully by the time it is evening, you'll have taken some great ideas after me and would have implemented this in your work. And I thank you again. I acknowledge the effort that you took to come here, and I hope it becomes a meaningful session for you in IIM, and you're able to bless us with your presence and with your footfalls in IIM. Hopefully you'll do some courses. My job is to sell the institute, and that's what I've done. Thank you.
Yet there's a lot of talk of gender equality.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. You know, the question, when I said equality, I meant equity. Equality means equity. Equity means you have had a head start as a boy. I did not have as much of a head start. See, Amira Shah gives a great example. She says, we are playing basketball. I was only 13 years old. And all of us fell. We got bruised. And the boys got bruised and they had this. So we went to the principal. Principal asked the doctor and we had some little band-aids. All of us were treated equally. And the boys were asked to go and play. And I, as a girl, was asked to go home. Because I shouldn't stretch myself too much and injure myself too much. Because my beauty was more important than my intelligence or my physical fitness. So the point I'm trying to make is those unconscious signals we sent, we are not even aware. You see, this Me Too movement happened. And people were talked about in the newspapers. I don't have anything against them. But you know, there were several phone calls I got of people. People got scared. There are a lot of other men whose name was not there. They were worried. What will happen to them? Now, this anxiety was created because it is a sensitization issue, unknown to yourself. You may have treated a female colleague in a manner that you should not. You may have treated somebody, and you thought this was norm, but you realize it's not a norm because the person who is receiving that behavior. Amira Shah also goes on to say, and I'm quoting her, she has been behind Metropolitan Hospital. She runs one of the most successful entrepreneurial ventures. And she says something interesting. She says, at the age of 25, I'm in conversation with a 70-year-old successful multinational CEO. And she says, I refuse to mention his name. And she promises all kinds of help to me, provided I was willing to sleep with her. Now she mentions that. I said, the question therefore was whether or not I was equally good compared to any other person who would be a man in my place. The question was, how would I be treated? Is there equity in the treatment? Equality in this sense means equity. Or do I have a start that is uneven? And when says, you have lack of confidence, but the entire social infrastructure is created to jack up your lack of confidence. People like you if you have lack of confidence. Oh, you are vulnerable, you are demure, and I like you for this. So we are reinforcing the stereotype, which says if you are shy, if you are shaken, if you cannot do it on your own, then I like you much more. That's a signaling we do. So my thing to the girl students who come to the IIM campus is simply, you come here as a woman, but you stay here as an IIM student. There is no man-woman here anymore. I'm not going to make this into a, at the threshold level, wherever there was opportunities missed, I'll give you that opportunity. After you giving that opportunity, don't expect any more favors. Are you with me? So what you're doing is, you are not only making lack of confidence or lack of opportunities an individual issue, you're making this into an ecological issue. And the exact opposite is happening now. See, if you look at the Me Too movement, if you look at how if it extends any more than it has, men and women were designed to be complementary. They were not meant to be competitive. The fact that they have become competitive because men wanted women to be like them, which is the unfortunate part. Now, we would have to see that how women come on their own without your interference. Now, if you allow them that even feel that is, but you're not doing that. You're sending signals to them, texting, sending social messages. What has a car advertisement got to do with a woman standing there? I have no idea. I mean, what comparisons are you trying to draw here? And so the point is this, that these messages are very subtle. They have entered our mind space. And we seem to do that. I am absolutely clear that it is about complete and deep sensitivity about years and years of deprivation, and that those years of deprivation, why we have affirmative action. And people say, why affirmative action? I said, see, it's not just about economic deprivation. It is about cultural deprivation. It's about, what kind of music do a certain kind of people in India get to hear, what kind of books they get to read. This becomes these are social capital that they haven't acquired. Okay? So the fundamental thing that we are saying here is, are we certain that the ecology is also ripe for equality? It is not. So if the ecology is not ripe for equality, can I talk about equality? We cannot. So essentially I meant equity in the name of equality. I hope I've carried my point through. One question more. Welcome, sir. Good to see you here. Yeah. Yes. Either you're shy.
Thank you.
Or you
Thank you, sir.
No, don't thank me. I said, let me say. I said, either you're shy or you have desperate for a cup of tea. When you're drinking your cup of tea, please remember what you won't have. You're small. Should be small. Okay. Right. Is creativity or innovation innate or made? It's like asking whether leaders are born or made. They can't be made provided they're born. They have to be born first. See, what do you call creativity is nothing. Please don't pay so much premium on creativity. The talk of creativity is all bullshit. Creativity is recycling all information in a new format. Creativity is the emergence of a new property from old properties. See, for instance, you have petals of a flower. The petals don't create the beauty of the flower. The entire arrangement creates the beauty. So petals are the same structures used, but the emergence of beauty is creativity. So it is not as though you're doing something very original. You look at Pukkalam in Kerala, they're all circular, flowers arrangement is circular. Go to Holland, all the tulips are aligned linear, one line. One line. Then you go to Japanese garden, you can't figure out which is where. It's all mixed up. Now you can see the same flowers, but put together in different combinations produce that effect which is creative, right? So creativity is nothing but recycling that which already exists and giving it a shape and a form that performs a value in terms of innovation that did not perform before. Mobile telephony, see, mobile phone, technology of phones, technology of the entertainment media were very similar. But their usages were very different. Creativity means how do you bring these two together in a platform? Today you see a newspaper and you read television screens. Now newspapers are meant to be read and televisions are meant to be viewed. But it's the other way around now. How much time do I feel I read? See, I look at screens much longer than I look at a newsprint. Why is that so? Because that format has enabled me to do something in my own time, in my own place. Are you with me? Do you see what I'm saying? And so why is Ayurveda not attracting insurers? Now there is some creativity required. Ayurveda has got far more formidable base than Western medicine. I think Ayurveda is far more comprehensive than Western medicine. But Western medicine succeeds. Why? Because they have adapted. What you call the stethoscope is from the world of physics. So they have taken ideas from the world of physics, world of chemistry, and they have created value. So constantly adapting what already exists in the system to a new format, and you call this emerging format. And the emerging format could be very different from the ingredients. You have anda dosa. I was in Kochi and I was given a egg dosa, egg uttapam. I never had an egg uttapam in my life. So in the middle of an uttapam there is an egg, sunny side up. Now everybody wanted to have that in my group. We'll try an egg uttapam. Why would they want to try? They wanted to have an egg. They also wanted to have an uttapam, but they didn't know how to combine the two. Somebody's done it for you, come on. Are you with me? Do you see what I'm saying? So when you talk of creativity, you are essentially saying, how can I mix and match the pre-existing ingredients in a manner that is more useful, or useful in a way that the customer is willing to pay in multiple currencies. The currencies could be money, could be attention, could be endorsement, doesn't matter what the currency is, as long as they're willing to spend their energy, it is useful. Are we there? Okay. For the next speakers, please do not allow parade of people in front because it disturbs everybody in the system. Okay, if you have to deliver something, do it in the breaks. Don't do this here because we also, this is like our temple, we value this space very greatly. And so if you could do that, whatever has happened in my session, fine, but going forward, enjoy your cup of tea. Thank you.
Sincere thanks from Calicut Management Association, all present here.